You might have seen this next guest in the lineup at Rincon or on stage at Madison Square Garden, but I know him from drinking in parking lots as a teenager. Every high school has a student that's considered most likely to succeed. They're academically dedicated, they're active in school politics or clubs or sports, and they're self-disciplined with a sharp focus on their future. That wasn't me, and that wasn't my friends either. Many of us were actually quite smart and creative in our own unconventional ways, but school spirit certainly wasn't what we cared about. Several of us would eventually find career success by way of some unexpected and circuitous paths, but one of us would become the lead guitarist for one of the biggest rock groups on the planet and subsequently find themselves just a single degree of separation away from another iconic band that transformed the entire music industry with a song called Smells Like Teen Spirit. There's a unique bond that you have with someone when you were friends with them well before they became wildly successful. There's a certain understanding that you have that puts you in a special category. You share memories and experiences that predate their current reality. But do fame and success have to fundamentally alter someone's behavior and personality? The answer is no. Chris and I still find ourselves hanging out in parking lots together, only now we're holding sandy wetsuits instead of beers. Life has a way of coming full circle. Today, musician, family man, surfer, political activist, and Santa Barbara native, Mr. Chris Shiflett.
That didn't fuck it up, did I?
No, we should be good.
Okay, cool. Check.
The last thing I want to do is hear you talk shit about my compression. Chris Shiflett, thanks for sitting down, dude.
Yes, sir.
Wow, that's funny. Kind of all back to where it all started here in Santa Barbara.
100%.
So I have been staying for the last 2 weeks at my parents' house, basically in the bedroom that I grew up in, albeit with a wife and a kid now. But it's kind of funny. I think maybe you can go home again. I feel like not that much really changes around here.
You know what the good thing about being the age that we're at is that when you go home again, you only seem to run into the people that are like also like happy and kind of in a good place. Like all the jailbirds and fuck ups have all kind of fucked off to the corners or something. You know what I mean? You just don't run into any of it.
But it was funny, we were talking about the other day, like I keep out of the corner of my eye, like thinking that I'm seeing people that I know from high school, and they'll be like, oh wait, but that person's 28.
Well, it's funny because that's everywhere I go in Santa Barbara, and especially when I'm surfing, everybody I look at, I'm like, is that somebody I knew in high school? I did that the other day right down here at Hammond's when I looked at a guy just maybe a little too long because he looked like a dude named Brian that went to Santa Barbara High around the same time as we did. And I kind of did that thing where I just looked at him like a second too long, and he was like, what's up? Kind of like hard staring. Like, he thought I was like hard staring. I was like, I know you're my bro from high school, you know?
So it's kind of funny. I feel like we have, and correct me if I'm wrong, kind of a similar relationship with surfing in that, you know, we grew up here, grew up in the ocean. I surfed for a handful of years when I was a teenager and basically moved to high school, like essentially right out of high school. And then surfing didn't really have a place in my life until like my, 30s when I kind of rediscovered it. And then by then I was living in New York City, and as cool as Rockaway is for this fun little surf scene, like it's not that good that often. You know, like after surfing Rincon with you yesterday, I'm just like, dude, what am I doing? That place it's pretty magical out there. You know?
It's interesting. You know, I grew up at the beach. I did not grow up surfing. I grew up boogie boarding. You know, I'm almost like embarrassed to admit.
Yeah, but you know,
like
water culture.
Surfing. You know, but just hanging out at the beach. You know, I grew up like on the east side of Santa Barbara, and so we could walk to East Beach. You know. And I was always kind of fascinated by surfing, but I didn't really start surfing till I was like into my 20s, you know? And once I started surfing, I was like, holy fuck, how could I have not been doing this my whole life, you know?
Like, did you have a conscious, because you're a busy dude. You got the podcast, obviously you got the band, you got your solo career. 3 kids?
3 kids.
3 kids. Yeah. Like, it'd be really easy to not surf, obviously. Like, when did you decide to really, like, consciously carve out time in your life and make that a priority?
It's an ongoing thing. I mean, I really, like, honestly, like, there's been stretches in my adult life where I'll go a really long time without getting any waves because it's easy because of all the things you just said, but also because of traveling. You know, it seems like, you know, it's like Murphy's Law. Like, I come home, there's no waves. You should have been here last week when it was pumping, you know. And so it's easy. You can, if I'm in the middle of a tour cycle, I could go months without surfing because every time I'm home, there's no waves, and then I leave, and then it's good, and you know what I mean? You just get in one of those, and you know how it is, like once you sort of get out of that groove,
it tends to snowball. It's like almost like has an inertia to it. The more you surf, the more you want, and then once you like, I was out of like when I first came here, 2 weeks ago for the holidays. Like I went down to Rincon just with the fam, and it was like not firing, but like gorgeous, and like and I was like, oh, that looks cool, but like I wasn't even jonesing, right? Because I hadn't surfed for a while, and then I paddled out a couple times, and then now I'm just like, hey, sweet, you think you could watch the kid? I'm just like, you want to get back in.
It's interesting. It's kind of cyclical, but like this year in particular, a couple things happened for me. First off, I was like touring a lot on my own, sort of sandwiched in between. It was like a light year of touring for Foo Fighters, but we were working, but not like, it wasn't crazy. It was sort of like off cycle, you know? And so between Foo Fighters stuff I was doing, I put out an album and like did a lot of touring on my own, and I sort of in the middle of all that, really right at the beginning of summer, I kind of had that realization, like, fuck, I'm not gonna have a summer. I'm like gone all summer, and I'm not gonna have any lazy beach days with my kids. I'm not gonna, it's just sort of like didn't have an opportunity for any of that, and it kind of fucked me up. Like it threw me into like a like, I don't know, it just made me really depressed and made me like start like feeling like resentful to all this shit that I had committed to that like was good stuff that I wanted to go do and going and working, but I was like found myself like looking for reasons to not do it and looking for excuses to cancel shit, which I didn't do, but I guess my point is like it sort of reinforced like that I have to carve out that time when I'm home, and I have been like since then, basically. But also with sort of reconnecting up here, I wanted to get over feeling like a fucking tourist in the lineup at Rincon. I don't want to feel like a tourist at Hamilton. I still, if I'm being honest, I still do, basically. But I just trying to get up here more and surf more and really get to know the sort of the lineups.
Well, I feel like you have like the perfect level of kind of, for lack of a better word, fame and notoriety. Let's call it fame adjacent, in a way. right. And that like you have like all of the perks of being part of this machine of the Foos, and all the success and the perks that brings, but at the same time, without a lot of the trappings of having to be like that public figure. You can walk down the street and you can, live your life. But, ironically, I feel like the one place where all that success and status and fame like doesn't really hold any weight is in the lineup.
Totally. It might even count against you. I mean, I remember Timmy Curran telling me like when he would go, I don't remember which break he was talking about, but he told me about getting yelled at, like, you get to go on boat trips, we have to live here, like that kind of shit. I think there is an element of that. For sure. And
is there anything about that equation that you would want to change? Would you like to be, if you could have your way, would you be, less anonymous, or is there a part of you that wants to be a little bit more of like, right this way, sir? Like,
no, I think you nailed it, and I love that. That's what my life is. Like, I get to be a part of this big thing and make a good living and like take care of my family and tour the world. I've gotten to travel all over the world for years and years. But the fame part, I think the fame part maybe appealed to me a lot more when I was a kid, because it's sort of like the fantasy of what being like a rock star is when you don't know what it is.
Well, what's the biggest misconception that's now that you've kind of experienced that, if not personally, like kind of peripherally from Dave or other people? Like,
I mean, I think it's all who you are and how you handle it. I think you look at somebody like Dave, he obviously does a really good job of like keeping things in balance, like as crazy as, probably a lot of his life is, with especially nowadays, with where the band's at and where he's at as a sort of celebrity. I don't know that they're like, we grew up in a time when like, rock stars were like Van Halen and Ozzy and people like that. And like, by the time I came along, I feel like grunge and 90s alt rock had like made a lot of that like really like you would feel guilty about
it. Was
living sort of wrung that out.
It was less cool to be famous and cool,
right? Then, unless you couldn't like smash hotel rooms up. Not that I would have ever necessarily wanted, but like I could have when I was younger. I suppose I could have been as decadent as I wanted, but I didn't even join the Foo Fighters until I was 28, you know what I mean? And it was years before we started making like the kind of living where you could go out if you wanted to blow your tour income on a Ferrari or some dumb shit. Like, I suppose I could have done that, but I never did, and then pretty early in all that, I got married, started having kids and all that sort of thing. So it's sort of like, I suppose I could live a crazier existence. And lots of people do. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there's plenty of like cocaine and strippers and shit going on in rock and roll that maybe isn't on people's Instagram account, but it exists.
It's because you've been able to maintain like your sense of like humor and humility and perspective. And do you think it has to do with the age at which you joined the Foos? Do you think surfing has a part of that, or just like there's like kind of this sense of like humility and?
Yeah, well, it's funny, that you mentioned surfing in that, because certainly around here, historically, it's like, black wetsuit, whiteboard, shut the fuck up, kind of.
And all these rules that I don't even know about. Dude, if you wrap your leash around your board right when you get out of the water, that's a kook move, dude.
Right, exactly.
What?
I didn't know. Is there a handbook? But it's funny because I think that mentality extends certainly in like where we grew up in California, like that extends beyond the lineup. And there is a sort of like, don't get too big for your britches thing that I think is part of the culture of growing up here, and that said, I think we all do stupid things, through at various points of our life, but my family, my friends, my wife, certainly a big part of like keeping my feet on the ground.
So if you walk in the house as like Chris Shiflett from the Foo Fighters, like that shit doesn't really fly.
Are you kidding? First off, my kids don't give a shit. Second, my wife's like, unpack your fucking bag and do the dishes, because you're not at the Four Seasons, bro. There's nobody here to pick up after you. Cara, it's like she's like, it's like being married to Sean Murphy or something half the time. She'll just throw you zingers.
So like. I'm sure you've just crossed paths with so many just random luminaries of different, fields and whatever. They always say, don't meet your heroes. Like, do you have a certain experience that really proves that? Have you met anybody you're just like, what the fuck is it, without naming names or with naming names?
Nothing too bad. I would say most of the time in those environments, you just sort of don't have a meaningful conversation with the person.
It's just kind of like, oh, hey, nice to meet you.
Right,
the show is good.
Right, like Jimmy Page came out to a Foo Fighters show years ago. He's been to a few. I mean, he came out on stage with Dave and Taylor, at that Wembley gig years ago. But like I remember one time when he was there, maybe it was the first time or whatever, and it's fucking Jimmy Page, and you just so badly want to go have that moment, but so does everybody else. You know what I mean? It's like the whole backstage is smothering him, and you know what I mean? So that's not like, necessarily a bad experience, but it's just sort of nothing. But like there's been a few people, I would say like Chris Christopherson was like maybe one of the coolest experiences, because we did a thing with him at a Johnny Cash memorial right after Johnny Cash died. We played Sunday morning coming down with him, and he showed up. Most people have at least a tour manager and a guitar tech or something. He showed up nobody. Wow. He showed up he walked into the rehearsal room carrying his own guitar and was just like, hey, what's up?
Which is exactly what you would think.
Exactly what you would want, you know what I mean? And then he hung out, and we ran through the song. He's like, all right, sounds good. And then he just hung out all day, until the show.
And it's cool that you mentioned him in terms of a name, because, I mean, he's obviously a legend and, famous, but it's not the most famous person. I guess the point I'm saying is that it's really the ones that kind of get to you are the ones that actually mean something to you, not necessarily just the like arbitrary level of their fame, because those are just, I've crossed paths with some of those too, and it's just like, you're kind of just like, oh, that's interesting, because you get to see the actuality of the disconnect between like the image and the person, and it's novel, but it's not really meaningful a lot of times.
I grew up as like a monster Kiss fan, like just monster Kiss fan, and Paul Stanley's kids go to the same school as Dave's kids, and so we've done a couple things where Paul Stanley has come out and played with us. But we played at the Forum for Dave's birthday a few years ago, and Paul Stanley did a couple songs.
I think I was there. They did all the covers, like were you there? Yeah, I was there with They did like the Jane's Addiction guys were there.
Yes,
and
like tons of people came, but it was like for me, I mean, that was like. There's been a few things, but like that was one of the great all-time moments for me, because the Forum is where Kiss Alive 2 was recorded, and like we sound checked with Paul, and he's like the nicest guy in the world, and like he's so pro that at sound check, I swear to God, he was sound checking his like between song banner. Like, the form is empty, and he's on stage with it going like, "All right, Los Angeles,
I can't hear you."
Like he was doing the whole thing.
That's awesome. It's pro, man. It's
super pro
show business.
Yeah.
I guess the funny thing is, I feel like the I guess civilian population has this notion that once you become famous, it's like this kind of secret door that opens and everybody knows each other and it's fraternal and everyone's on the same level. And it seems like, in fact, it's just like every other part of life where there's like cliques and stratum and all that stuff. And, from the perspective of, getting to shoot a lot of famous people over the years, like one of the most charming and interesting things for me to get to experience is when people who are legitimately famous are kind of humbled and a little starstruck by other people that are legitimately famous. And you realize no matter who you are always 13 at some point. And there's always that one person that was like coming up ahead of you that you emulated. Like, have you experienced anything like that? Have you ever seen Dave starstruck? Like, have you seen him on his heels?
For sure, because it's a funny thing, especially in recent years. Like, there's been so many, like, when the guys from Queen come around, or when we did that Sound City, when Dave did that Sound City movie, and we went out and did a bunch of shows around that, and all these like special guests came. But I mean, they've got so many, like, and Dave's still obviously like, he grew up listening to like a lot of underground music and punk rock music. So a lot of those folks, like the guys from fucking Naked Ray Gun or whatever, come out to the show, and you can see that he's
means something to him.
It means something. The guys from Bad Brains come out, and you can tell that moves him in a way that maybe, meeting Joe Schmo rock star doesn't.
It's fascinating too, because most of the kind of true mavericks of seminal cultural movements like that, whether it's like skateboarding or punk rock, like the first generation never made any money. And so it's interesting, that you see someone like these, like even I got to shoot Jay Adams briefly, a couple years ago before he passed, and I was like, he was literally, I think he was like a busboy at Cholo's on the North Shore or something, you know what I mean? It was like, kind of, he'd had some issues, and I think that contributed to as well. But I mean, these guys they're not filthy rich.
Now what's his name? That was what's his name now? I'm drawing a blank. The dude that was like the Zephyr Surf and Skate.
That's a writer or
Skip?
Skip. Yeah, Skip Fry. Yeah.
Yes, he Skip Engblom.
You're
what's his name?
Skip Engblom.
Skip Fry is that other shaper dude. Yeah. But he was like, probably still is doing ding repair down in Marina Del Rey or whatever. What I mean?
Conlon's tied with him. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's that's like an age-old story. Whatever it is. It's, surfing, boxing, music, whatever.
So, tell me, is that a strange transition going from, being Chris from the Foos playing stadium and then being Chris the solo artist and playing, bars and small little clubs? I mean, is that a huge transition? I mean, it must be very bizarre.
It's usually feels like it is more for people like I get more comments from people like, oh my God, you're setting up your own gear, that sort of thing. For me, it's like playing little clubs and bars. It's like I never stopped doing that through all the years. I always had like a little side project or something, outside of it, and that's like that's where everybody comes from. Music, the place rock and roll. It's like we all grew up in bars and keg parties and stuff. Is it
a little bit more fulfilling on some level, just because it's something that you completely created by yourself as a powder stuff? I mean, you're obviously at this point, you've been with the Foos enough that you're part of the creative force, but there is a sense of there's like this inertia of the machine that you kind of jumped on mid trip.
It's the difference between being like a teammate, or with Dave's obviously the creative force behind the band, and so you're sort of playing to what he wants out of his own songs and all that sort of thing, as opposed to just like getting up and sort of playing maybe a little more intuitively or whatever. And I think it's very different when you're playing songs that you wrote with words that you wrote that have part of your story, and you know what I mean. It's
a lot more on the line.
Yeah, it's such a different role, for me in that thing that it's. I love that I get to go out and do it. I like that I have both. You know,
I mean, I guess
I'm super comfortable in a support role in a band. It's mostly what I've always done, whether it was like high school bands or like when I was in No Use for a Name or even the Gimme Gimmes or something. And certainly with the Foo Fighters, that is a comfortable role for me, like in a band. But I like to go out and sing and write songs.
And the muscles, it's a different muscle flex for sure, right?
Totally.
Like, how do you maintain like a sense of enthusiasm? You go on a like long tour like that and you're playing the same. I mean,
that's the hard part.
I know. I'm just saying, like,
really
how tired must Dave be of playing Everlong? And he wrote it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like from you. Like,
Yeah.
how do you? I mean, there must be nights you just kind of try and phone it in, or like, how do you rally to give that to the crowd?
It's funny because, I mean, really, without sounding too corny about it, you really just have to find the fun and the unique moments in every show. And the thing about that people maybe don't think about with like a band like the Foo Fighters, like, this sounds awful to say this, but like, we basically never have a bad show. You know what I mean? Every show is like, people are there to see us.
That's a fair statement. That's why they're there to see you. I think that you guys have that reputation of like...
Right, but like, you never go out and like, we're not trying to win the crowd over in the same way. It's a very different thing when you're playing music that people know and have like listened to for years and years, and they know all the words, and they're shouting along, and it's a different kind of like expectation of what the show is. I think, you know, that is one of the thing that's the most radically different. You know, there's the obvious stuff of like, if I'm out there as Chris Shiflett, the solo artist, I'm playing to 50 people in Des Moines or whatever, you know, as opposed to like a stadium. That's sort of the obvious thing. The maybe less obvious thing is that when you're out playing songs that nobody's ever heard, a room full of people that are like, we don't know who the fuck you are, and we haven't heard these songs, especially if you're like supporting somebody else. That's the thing that I fucking love. Like, I love having to win that crowd over, the way that feels. You know what I mean? That's really fun. It's a different thing. I also love going out and having fucking 20,000 people go ape shit, you know what I mean? It's like, but it's a very different animal.
There seems like a little parallels. I heard like a lot of stand-up comics talk about the difference between, you know, doing a set at the store or, you know, to a random crowd and then doing a headline show. It's like you don't have to win the crrowd. Or people bought tickets and got sitters and waited in line to see you specifically.
Oh, and they're rooting for you. Yeah. They didn't come out to have a shitty time. They don't want to be bummed. They want to, you know, they're like there to, you know, especially like a big Foo Fighter show or something. I mean, people like fly in for those, you know. It's like it becomes it's an event, you know. It's a trip to meet up with all their friends, and you know, it's like they're not there to go, oh, this you know, and it wills you on almost, you know.
So I don't know if you remember this, but one of the first date I went on with my wife, Lisa, was to the Foo show.
What?
Yeah, you know, I think in New York, New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Listen, I mean, it would have been, I could do the math, it was 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
But you know, you hooked me up, and like so many things could have gone wrong. It was like, oh, the tickets weren't there. You know, I'm just like, oh, there's a lot on the line.
Which often does go wrong.
But no, everything went smooth, and you know, you've always been super, you know, generous and gracious. So you like came and met us and like hooked us up, or like hanging backstage. I'm kind of feeling like, oh yeah, I'm the man. And I'm like kind of just like starting to get a little relaxed, get some drinks in me, and then you know, you're like, oh, by the way, we're about to go play a rock and roll show if you want to go watch. So like brought us to stage, and I remember kind of like peeking behind the curtain and like looking at the crowd, and I was like, I had this epiphany. I was like, holy shit, you all are popular. You know? like it's just like a really weird thing when like someone that you know from a kid becomes like this other thing, you know. But at the same time, I think that's why it's always so great to hang out with you, because you aren't that other thing. You know, you're still just this dude I know him forever. It's
interesting because, you know, as you know, a lot of people we grew up with sort of never left. And, you know, there's that whole thing. And there's almost like different categories of friends, you know, and like you're one of the people that went out into the world, went far away, and did some crazy shit, you know what I mean, with your life, and have lived a lot. And it's interesting because like throughout that whole time, whether it was like, you know, my band playing at a keg party in high school or whatever, which you would have been at, or the barn, or you know, whatever, one of those things, or like, you know, like hanging out in New York in the mid 90s, like at those like No Use for a Name shows, or like Coney Island High or whatever, like the early Warped Tour stuff, or any of those things, you know what I mean? You sort of like, we've always connected through the years through all the different points. It wasn't like I hadn't seen you since fucking, 11th grade, and then all of a sudden it was,
You're like, oh, he's famous. Can you get me backstage or whatever?
It's funny. I think about that sometimes. Like, we've sort of like, there aren't a lot of my friends that I know through the whole thing.
It's funny. I remember when you were doing the Warped Tour, I went and hung out with you, and I was like, my friend is starting to get a little, level of status. He's on tour or whatever. And I came to meet you in the afternoon. You're like, dude, I'm basically in a concentration. I'm like a refugee camp right now. I'm in the middle of this like dirt field with no transportation. It's 2:00. We don't go on until fucking whenever. And like, it's not that glamorous,
Didn't we like take the train back from like Roosevelt Island or some shit? Like I have like a vague memory of that. Like me and you and maybe like John Bush and some people all being on a train coming back from the Warped Tour.
I was like, I thought you were a rock star, dude. What's going on?
Where's the white limo, bro?
Oh man! So I pulled up a couple of photos on the way over here, and one of them is one of you and Joan Jett backstage in New York, and it's just so funny because my first concert ever was for my 6th grade birthday gift. My parents took me to see Joan Jett at the Arlington. Yeah. And then cut to probably late 90s. I was a photo assistant. I worked on a shoot with her. And there was a kind of quiet moment afterwards. And like, I wanted to kind of pay like respect to her and, say, hey, you were the first concert that I ever went to when I was in 6th grade. But like somehow the way it came out is like, you are so fucking old that when I was in 6th grade, I just like totally botched it,
Right.
And so then cut to today, and like I honestly don't remember doing it, but like when you sign up for a security question for a credit card, they say, first school you went to, pet's name, or like what was the first concert you went to? I must have said Joan Jett. So literally every time I call my credit card company now, like has to be represented. Joan Jett representative. Yeah, it's just like so ridiculous.
That's funny.
But that's really fun to get to shoot you guys. I think that must have been the Sound City project. What was that for?
No, I feel like that was backstage at Madison Square Garden. Yeah. And I feel like that was maybe the first time that we did anything with her, because I remember those pictures too. I feel like that was before. I could be fucking that up. I don't know. I'm fucking senile, but I feel like that was before the Sound City stuff. It's interesting because Pat has known Joan Jett forever. Like
he was produced the record or no?
She produced
Germs.
The Germs record, but even before that, he was like a teenager running around, following around the Runaways. Like way back when.
Wow.
But it's funny. I don't remember her ever sort of being around in the early days of being a Foo Fighter until I feel like that was the first time.
I think it was right around the same time. And then, so it was cool getting to meet her. And then I remember we hung out when Mike Ness and Social Distortion were supporting you.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember that great story you told me about him. I'm sure I'm like going to butcher it, but so somebody was like talking shit and like whatever, but rather than like just getting into an immediate fist fight, they basically made an appointment to go and like go down the block and have a fist fight. Yeah. And then they like brawled it out. And then the guy's like, all right, cool, we did that. You mind giving me a ride back?
Yeah. Is
that the gist of the story?
Yeah, it's funny. I should make it clear that I heard that story very secondhand, not directly
I'm telling
from
it fourth hand, but it's a great story.
I didn't hear it from Mike Ness. But, I think I suspect that it is true. But, that, man, getting to tour with them, that's like kind of goes back to what you were talking about before, meeting people that like I was always such a massive fan of Mike Ness and Social Distortion, but also like he's one of those dudes that you're kind of afraid to meet because he's got a gnarly edge.
He's real.
And I gotta say because I interviewed him for my podcast kind of early in doing it, and he was so fucking cool.
What kind of a deeper dude than I expected.
So much deeper.
I remember that podcast. Yeah, I was wow.
Totally. He gets into all kinds of stuff, and he's just a thoughtful, just what a sweet, cool, thoughtful guy, But obviously, has an edge to him.
But another one of those characters that from that era that we look up to is kind of Mount Rushmore of punk rock or whatever. And I don't think he's. Probably got a decent life. He can, has a touring lifestyle, but he's not filthy. They didn't make a ton of money.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. He looks like he lives pretty great. He looks like talk about a good level of fame and success. That looks like a pretty it's manageable. But the guy kind of created a subgenre of punk. That there's will always be generations of greaser punk rock dudes following in that image.
Yeah, and kind of the first person to really like draw what would actually be a really obvious parallel, but I'd never seen, between like country and punk rock. You know, like Johnny, I was like, I never thought of, Johnny Cash or people from that genre as like having a direct lineage to what we were into until, someone like Mike Ness.
I would say for me personally, he's probably maybe the most influential in turning me on to that, old honky tonk and stuff like that, because they would cover some of those songs and stuff. Yeah. But like, I didn't grow up listening to old country music, and it was through Social D and certainly like through X and, some of the stuff that was around in those days that turned me on to just even thinking it was cool.
Yeah, or even like what other punk band from the time would do like a Stones cover. You know what I mean? Like
totally.
Wasn't like a thing.
Yeah. You were supposed to hate those people, not celebrate them.
Which is funny too, because like, dude, so I got in the last, like, basically when my wife was pregnant, it was like, it was a Steely Dan pregnancy. Like, it was like the most, like, it just like represents everything I needed in my life, just like smooth and mellow,
very well crafted.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it was just like, that was the shit you were supposed to hate back in the day. And now it's like, I'm like, dude, I need some. This is a Steely Dan Sunday right now.
It's funny how like there's some things that that I grew up hating, just like a visceral hatred for, like anything sort of hippie related. It's growing up here, summer fucking solstice parade, and there were just hippies everywhere, and sort of that post-hippie culture that we were just sort of surrounded by, which made a lot of us, I think probably you too, like just fucking despise anything patchouli. Like it was like a big move for me that I could like smell patchouli oil and think like, oh, it smells kind of nice now. You know what I mean? Like, it was like real progress.
It just reminds you of like dirty girls with no shoes on.
Totally. Or like to be able to listen to like a Bob Marley record or something. You know what I mean? And appreciate it. Like was like kind of. But there's some things from that era that I can't let go of, just sort of despising. It's fun. It's funny how like some things you're okay with and some things you're not. Like when all this sort of like soft rock, retro soft rock started happening a few years ago, and people celebrating that era of like 70s.
I don't really need Seals and Croft in my life.
I hated it then. I don't think it's hip now. If I could have fun, but I fucking hate it still.
Well, so that kind of leads me to the question. I want to get your perspective on the music industry as a whole. Like I know the economics have obviously changed, but like just for me personally, I find that like music it's sad, but it doesn't hold the same place in my heart and my life as it did when I was a kid. And I think a lot of that has to do with, growing up around here, there were certain cultural signifiers. You'd be like, oh, that guy's a certain haircut. Oh, that guy has creepers. Like, okay, we have something in common. Yeah. And so it wasn't just the music. It was more like, and it was an identity as well. And I think a lot of that, I don't know if it's just us getting older or me getting older, but I feel like that isn't really as much a part of music, period. And then also you have so much competition with Instagram and video games and whatever that means. It just doesn't have that kind of cultural driving force that it did, at least for me. Like, what's the state of the music industry? Is it on its last legs? Is it thriving? And I'm just that old dude. Like, where do you see it?
From what I understand, the record industry is thriving, but like it is interesting what you said about cultural signifiers, because I noticed that mostly just with my kids and watching what they're into and what all their friends seem to be into, and I just sort of look around their school and I don't see a lot of subgroups. I don't see goths and mods and skinheads and punkers and heavy metal. Like, I mean, there's a little bit of that stuff here and there, but it's certainly not the way it was when we were kids, which, I don't know what's better or worse. I know that I liked it better the way it was when we were kids, but, it's because I lived through it. But I think part of it is also, like, I think your relationship with music changes a lot because, when I was 10 or when I was 16 or even up until probably into my 20s, early 20s, like you sort of, you want to be defined by the things that you're into. I'm a fucking Jawbreaker fan. I got this shirt and I go to the show and you don't fucking know what this is, but I do, and it's my little thing that's mine. Or I'm into Kiss, and fuck you if you're into Aerosmith, because Kiss is the best, blah, blah, blah.
And there's so much, I don't know if it was everywhere or just here, there was so much of that, like growing up in Santa Barbara. You'd be like wearing like a Black Flag pin, and then some scary dude comes up and goes, you need to tell me 3 Black Flag songs right now. I'm going to kick you. You don't deserve to be, you're not in the club.
You know what's great about that time, like when we were in high school, and I feel really lucky because I look back on it and I go, God, I fucking listened to some horrible shit. I listened to stuff that was good that I still like, but I listened to a lot of horrible shit. But just by virtue of hanging out like in the junior parking lot around all the people that we were hanging around, you just got turned on to everything. Like whether it was, you know, all the punk rock stuff. Like I never really identified as a punker dunker. Like I was like wanted to be a glam rocker, you know. I was trying to do that, but like you got hooked, you got turned on to all the punk rock stuff, all the ska stuff, like goth stuff, you know, all the
because it was a small enough of a community where they had the influences of, you know, from LA, and you know, people were into cool shit, but it's still a really small town. So you're talking, it's the same 200 people that were hanging out downtown. You know, this dude had a shaved head. This dude had a mohawk. This dude was in the sky. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was like there was like these factions, but it was still small enough for like we're still kind of all in this together against whatever the others were.
The kids in the big dog shirts.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
a Corona Beach Club or something.
It's interesting, like just by virtue of like what was on your friend's tape deck in their car, like on at the keg party, you sort of got turned on to all this. You know, your musical education was vast.
Yeah.
And like I find myself like, you know, like reminiscing about stuff that I wasn't even really into at the time, but you still know it sort of front to back.
And that's what's interesting about, you know, going back and revisiting some of the music that meant a lot to me at that age. And it's like some of it didn't really age very well, or maybe it wasn't a lot. Which makes me think that it probably, it's not that it didn't age well. I don't think it was that good even back then, but it just represented to us more than the sound on the record. You know, it was about like, oh, we're part of this culture by listening to this.
And like you're so open to it at that point. You know what I mean? You're just a kid. You don't have a mortgage. You don't have kids. You don't have a fucking job. You don't have any stress in your life, really. Like, it's just different. You know, I think, like, of course, I still love music, and music is, you know, a huge part of my life. And, you know, it's the thing I do for a living and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, I'd be lying through my teeth if I said that I listened to it with the same intensity that I did when I was a kid. Not even at all. Not even close. Like nothing moves me like that. But it's probably just because I'm old and desensitized. I don't know.
Or it's also just like the formats change, like the whole singles culture and online and streaming. Like I used to know title tracks and liner notes and, you know, stuff meant something.
I used to know who mixed the record, where it was a
square foot of artwork, and now it's not. It's a thumbnail picture.
We're definitely getting into like get off my lawn territory here for sure. but whatever, you know. I mean, I'm almost 50, so I can do that. But I think it's so weird to see how my kids, you know, get turned on to music, because, you know, when we were kids, you would go buy a record. And that was like the record that you had, and it was your latest record, so you just listen to it all the time, and you just knew it, you know, maybe you'd tape it, and your friends would tape it, whatever. And it would be, you know, months would go between record purchases. Now, if you're into something, it's like too fucking much. It's too much for me, and I'm a grown man. Like, I can only imagine what it's like for my kids. Like, how do you process anything?
Or even get to, like, for me, I feel like music is almost like making a new friend, as corny as it sounds. Like, it takes... I keep my circle pretty small, and then, you know, every once in a while I let somebody in. It takes a long time for me to feel like really comfortable, but once I do, it's like familiar. Yeah. And I would do that with a record too. Like it'd be like either not into that, or like I'm gonna listen to that 12 times in a row, and like, I'm gonna get to know it. Now we're friends. Now I'm familiar with it.
I think I
feel like I don't do that anymore.
Well, that's a part of the problem. It's like nobody listens to it 12 times, because a lot of great records you have to give it like 3 or 5 or 10 spins before it really fucking hits you. You know what I mean? I remember that, like, even something that to me doesn't seem that long ago, but I guess it kind of is, like, what was it? Radiohead OK Computer, when that came out. Like, I bought it, listened to it once, I was like, yeah, it's all right. And then I was like, yeah, I listened to it again. Yeah, it's all right. And then by the third listen, I was like, well, there's something's happening there. Yeah. And then by the 5th listen, I couldn't stop listening to it till the 1,000th listen. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, when's the last time you did that with a record?
It's been a while. I did actually the last Arctic Monkeys album I really liked a lot. But it was worthy of that multiple listenings, and I feel like a lot of stuff today, like that's not even the intent.
But that's probably just our age talking, and not because, you know, my kids listen to whatever it is that they're into fucking over and over.
Well, I guess that's what I mean. So,
but
like,
they don't listen to the album. They listen to the song, and they get about 3/4 of the way through, and then they move on to the next one.
Music does have that place in their life, like
for sure.
Oh, that's cool.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And I think in some ways they do kind of identify by it. You know what I mean? But it seems more like, what's the word? It's just like less focused in a way.
Did they get a good kind of music 101 education from you that stuck, or did they rebel against that?
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yes, they did. For years, my kids just sort of, especially my oldest son, Liam, they cycled through various chunks of my record collection, whether that was like AC/DC or there was a Green Day phase, there was a long Kiss phase, some stuff that I was like, I fucking did it. This totally worked, And then they were just sort of forced to listen to, I always marveled at like, they somehow, before I even think really knew what genres were, they could recognize when I put on like a country song and immediately shout it down off the stage. Turn that, we want to hear, fucking the Hives or whatever, but they were forced to listen to all of it. And then I remember when the Beatles box set came out when my kids were really small, like maybe even, I don't know if I had all three of them yet, but I bought the Beatles box set and I was like, I'm going to put this on repeat. I'm just going to play this all the time in the house. And I kind of did that for a while. Just to like, you just got to get that good bass layer.
It's such a good bass layer. I mean, like my son Jasper is just like, he's a huge Beatles fan, and it's just like, it represents everything like kind of music 101 that they should learn. It's like, it's melodic, it's funny, it's well crafted, it's artsy, it's non-linear in some place. It's just like a really good starting place to go to the next.
As a musician, that was my really the bedrock of like my music theory knowledge, because I was lucky my first guitar teacher made me learn those songs. And at the time I was like, I want to learn fucking Iron Maiden. Fuck the Beatles. Like, you know what I mean? I like the Beatles, but like it wasn't what cool. I was into in fucking 1982 or whatever, So, and I'm just glad that he did, because that's where I learned all my like chord voicings and all that shit, But it's interesting because now my older two kids don't really listen to guitar music at all. They listen pretty much exclusively to hip hop, which is all good. And then my youngest is totally still in the phase of listening to my rock records. So, and he's stubborn, so he might be the holdout.
So I pulled up this picture, and we'll close on this. I don't know if you've seen this picture before. It's kind of like a perfect metaphor for it's you in the hot sun carrying shit up a hill with your family. That is a perfect metaphor for being a dad.
That should be called parenthood right there.
But here's the key thing: with a huge smile on your face.
Totally. And I had an even bigger smile on my face the day that I realized that all my kids were out of car seats, all my kids were out of strollers, and I just cleared all that shit out of my fucking garage. The greatest.
Yeah.
That's funny, dude. I kind of remember that trip. I remember, God, when the fuck was that? My kids look like they're very young in that.
Like 6, 7, 8 years ago.
It's so funny, those early days of parenthood are like, there's a lot of sort of self-created stress. No, we gotta have the this and the that and all that shit. God, I miss it now.
Yeah.
I really miss it now. You know what I mean? Like my kids they're teenagers. They're big. They're independent.
I feel like you're actually at that point where time is starting to speed back up again. And I just got past the point where it was like, I remember when my son turned 2. People were like, oh, he's 2 already? I'm like, no, that fucking feels like 2 years. Like that's a long 2 years.
Yeah.
It's starting to kind of speed up again.
How's that sleep deprivation going? You know what I mean? Like you're probably through that now.
Oh my god. I mean, he was pretty good. Honestly, the hardest part for me was just before he started speaking, because I was, my wife and I are both freelance, and so I was with him a lot, and he was at that point where just like, dude, you need to get some new material. Like, I'm more bored than I love you right now. Like, get it together, dude.
Oh, funny.
And now we're kind of at a weird point now where it's like he's fluently speaking, but he's not quite old enough to be saying super interesting things, but old enough where it's not a novelty that he's talking all the time. I get it.
Kids go through that like drunken college kid phase where when they're toddlers, where they're like bumbling into everything, and like it's that's when it's hard. But God, man, I'm at the other end where we still have a few years left, but like my oldest is driving. We only have a couple more years with him till he's going to be out of the house, off to college, whatever. It's like, I find myself getting I'm like sad about it right now. Like it's funny, just, we were up here for a week and it was great. And, obviously my Cara and I have a very different relationship to Santa Barbara than my kids do because they're not from here. They didn't grow up here, you know. So we just want to be here all the time, and they're like, "Fuck it, we just want to go home." And so they had it. You know, Cara took them back a couple of days ago, and when they were getting ready to leave, I was like, I'm going to get all this shit done. I'm going to finish all these little projects that I have to do up around here. And the second they left, I was just like, oh, where'd they go? You know, like it's like rips your fucking soul out. You know?
I feel the same thing. Like we just feel like so exhausted and so, let's get it. And you finally put him to bed and then just like sit down and like, you're like, I'm like, let me just look at Instagram. I'm like looking at old videos of him.
Right,
like,
yes.
in the other room.
Oh, yeah.
But
that's one thing I've found my kids don't. They're not old enough to be nostalgic about their childhoods yet, because I do that. If I'm on tour, I'm like looking through my phone, and then I text it to them like, "Oh, look how cute you were," and then no response.
Yeah, it's funny. One of Jasper's favorite things to do is look at Jasper video. He likes to look at videos of himself.
Oh, nice.
Am I raising a little narcissist?
Yeah, perfect. Perfect for the times.
Yeah, totally. But like, it'd be interesting to see the effect that has on memory recall. Because like for us, like there was kind of home movies, and maybe we caught like the beginning of a video, but for the most part, like we had some still pictures in a shoebox, and that was like
that was it.
That was our memories. Where it's like we have the ability to record and document basically entire life, you know, and how that kind of affects their memory. Because he says he remembers stuff when he's like 2 years old.
Right.
I don't know if it's from seeing photos or.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't trust my memories anymore. You know, I've come to realize that they're faulty. But and a lot of it is constructed from old photographs in the shoebox at my mom's house. But it's interesting, like being a photographer, have you like hyper documented your son's childhood so far?
Yes and no. I think I started it first.
It's just a higher quality of documentation than the rest of us.
I think me in general, like I grew up on film, and so I'm pretty economical with the way I shoot photos. Yeah. Definitely not from this perspective now where it's just like blanket, you know, take pictures. It's so easy to take photos now on your phone or even a real camera, or it's like I come from the era of every time you push this little button, it costs $1.
Right. Yeah, so don't fucking press it too much.
What are you trying to say with this photo? And then now it's like people, like they forget that, okay, sure, you can take 1,500 photos over the course of a party, but like you still have to parse and edit all that information, you know. Yeah. And so I think editing and camera is like something that is a fine art that's been lost.
Well, it's interesting because it's also like I find the older I get, the more I get I'm uncomfortable by clutter. Yeah, any kind of clutter, old shit in my garage, whatever it is, and like digital photos make me stressed. You know what I mean? There's just too many of them. Like somebody has to come up with a really like, maybe they already exist. I don't know. I'm kind of a Luddite, but somebody needs to come up with a way of like organizing all your the overflow of fucking digital content that we all generate.
It's crazy. I mean, it's funny. There's like a definite cutoff on me, like, cause I toured with a lot of bands and did a lot of, you know, celebrity kind of photography, but it was almost all on film. And then the time when I switched to digital, like my archives, I'm pretty organized and keyworded. I can find stuff quick, but like somebody will call me and be like, "Oh, I'm looking for a picture of, you know, Outkast from 19." I'm like, "No, sorry, I'm not going into that closet." Find the contact sheet, find the corresponding neg, get a scan. Like it's not going to happen, you know, unless it's like there's real money involved or if it's something that I really care about. But, you know, on the flip side, like somebody with this surf project that I've been doing, you know, like I could pull up most surfers by their name and like email them a photo within 2 minutes. So
nice.
You know, it definitely is convenient. It's a different workflow for sure.
Yeah. So it drives me nuts.
Well, dude, man, thank you for sitting down. Thanks for the fun time, some fun waves, and
absolutely.
Let's do it again soon, man.
I'm glad we got some good hang time on this trip.
Right on.
Thanks, boss.
Yeah. Good shit, man.
That was great, dude.
Good shit.
That was fucking great.
This episode of The Plug was produced by Bucci with audio engineering and original music by Peter Buckingham. Thanks for listening, and a huge thanks to today's guests for dropping in. If you like this episode, hit subscribe and be sure to tune in for future conversations.